You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Experience holiday cheer at Tanger Outlets with savings up to 70% off your favorite brands. From fragrances to accessories and the latest styles, discover the best gifts for everyone on your list. Save big at Nike Factory Store, Michael Kors, Under Armour, Coach, Polo Ralph Lauren, Kate Spade New York, and so many more. Unwrap the best at Tanger Outlets. Hundreds of brands, endless gifting options. Plan your trip at Tanger.com.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV, Crimson Tide Kickoff, play-by-play for Alabama sports, and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Chase and I are in a great mood this morning. We're in here dancing, and we're having a big time because it's Friday. It is Friday, and it has been a long week. Chase has had to do a lot of double duty this week working. I mean, get a plug in for Chase here, because you think, and I tell people all the time, what we do isn't real work. I mean, we're not out, top of a house, doing construction or, doing real physical labor, but it can be stressful, and it can be, pressure in different ways. But to sit in a control room like he's been doing from before 6 o'clock in the morning straight through until 2 in the afternoon, running one show after another, I will tell you what, that will wear on you. Now, normally he gets off at 12, but because of certain things, sometimes he has to go work on through till 2. So let's give Chase a shout out here. That's a long time in the control room. And one reason I'm in an extra great mood, and don't get me wrong, I still love what I do, or I wouldn't do it. But today, Chase, after my radio show, I'm free. I'm off from TV this evening. Woohoo! I'm off on a Friday. So I'm going to go work out at the Y. Then I'm going to go grab some lunch. Then I'm going to do whatever it is I want to do. And I'm going to let Stu McCann handle all the great sports that's going on at WVUA 23 this evening, because there is a lot happening. And we're going to break it down, of course, this morning, too. But I'm in a really good mood. I feel good. I slept better. I've said before, my sleep issues. But last night, I had a good night's sleep, and it does make a difference, man. You just, you wake up energized, you wake up ready to go. And like I said, I'm looking forward to having a rare, it is rare. I don't take off much. I don't miss much. So to have a Friday off, after my radio show today, man, I just feel just feel great. Feel awesome. And I get to, be on my own time. And then this evening, if anybody has seen the pictures that I've put out recently on social media of I decorated my condo. I've got a big tree. I've got fully decorated. I've got a little small, one of those little LED trees. I've got some lights that I strung in front of my television. I've got some lights on my balcony. So I'm going to light all my Christmas decorations up tonight when I'm watching TV. Because normally, you got to remember, folks, I don't get home till 11 at night. I do 10 o'clock sports. So tonight, if I want to sit home and watch some TV with all my Christmas lights on, I'm going to do it. And looking forward to it. So anyway, but hey, listen, we better get to what we're paid to do, which is talk some sports. This is the Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. I'm Gary Harris. Chase Brumfeld right there in the control room. We're with you the next couple of hours talking sports and more. This is the TGIF edition, and it's being brought to you, as always, by my good friend Steve Swafford and the folks at Alabama Credit Union. As I've said before on my show, I do what I call relationship advertising. I don't really cold call people and try to go out and do a ton of advertising. I got a full-time job, right? And but I do relationship advertising. What I mean by that is everybody that advertises on my show, I have a relationship with them. I'm either a customer of theirs or I am a customer of theirs, one way or the other. Either like in this case, I'm a member of the Alabama Credit Union, or if it's a restaurant, I eat there a lot. People see me at all the restaurants I talk about. They're like, you really do eat here. Yeah, all the time. Houston's Hydro Steam and carpet cleaning. I use them for when I want my floors done. You know, whatever it is, if you hear somebody advertising on my show, you can bet that I believe in them and I have a relationship with them. And Alabama Credit Union is special. It really is. And Chase, in fact, I don't know where you do your banking, but if there's ever a time you're looking about a change, I really do encourage everybody to take a look at Alabama Credit Union. It's different, folks. You know, people, that's a catchphrase in this world. We're different. Alabama Credit Union really is different. I've done traditional banking, and I've done the credit union. Let me tell you, there is a huge difference. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Check them out at alabamacu.com. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money. And put a little extra change in your pocket. All right, here's the lineup for today. All the folks, we've been getting some great calls this week. Start lighting those phones up because we're guest-free in the first hour. We do not have a guest until 10 o'clock. And then Christy Curry, Alabama women's head basketball coach, is going to join us. And Coach Curry and the Tide have been cooking. They've been cooking, and they're home again on Sunday afternoon. We'll break down the season to this point and look ahead with SEC play right around the corner. And then at 10:30, it's the Auburn Report with Brett Pritchard, my friend from the Auburn Blitz. So outside of that, in the first hour, we're wide open, which I'm looking forward to because a lot of things to talk about, that is for sure. If you want to join us on the program, the number to the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline is 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. Pinnacle Park Luxury Townhomes near beautiful Lake Tuscaloosa. Find out more at pinnacleparknr.com. Talking about relationship advertising, Pinnacle Park, First and Main. There's some other properties that fall under that same umbrella, and you've heard me talk about First and Main as well. That's where I live. So, again, it's relationship advertising, Chase. I put my money where my mouth is, man. I tell you that right now. But Pinnacle Park, I have to tell you, it is really a special neighborhood. Gated, secure. All of the townhomes there are uniquely constructed. What I mean by that is there's not cookie cutter. They're different styles, different floor plans, different layouts, 4 bedrooms, 4 bath. You have to see them to believe them. And they sponsor our hotline, 205-342-9904. 205-342-9904 is the number if you want to give us a call. All right, a lot happening. And even though we don't have any guests, we do have some audio for you this morning. The ReliaQuest Bowl is not until New Year's Eve. The team won't go down there until probably after Christmas. But yesterday, they flew in delegations from both schools, Alabama and Michigan, including the head coaches and the athletic directors. So you had Kalen DeBoer and Greg Byrne from Alabama, and you had Sharon Moore and Ward Manuel from Michigan on hand yesterday for a press outing, chance to visit with members of the bowl committee. And then last night they had a big ceremony with the ceremonial contract signing, which I had video of that on TV last night on WVUA 23 News at 10, which was awesome. And we've got sound from Kalen DeBoer, both in an interview that he did yesterday, and Sharon Moore as well. And then last night at the podium with Kalen DeBoer, Sharon Moore, Ward Manuel, and Greg Byrne. So we've got that audio. We may also get to some of the clips that Chase has with Jalen Milroe from yesterday. I know Barry and Wimp and Barry played some of those. The big news on Jalen Milroe yesterday, of course, is that he is going to play in the bowl game. We told you that yesterday morning. I never had a doubt that he would, Chase. I was kind of puzzled by these people that said, well, he might not play in the bowl game. That's not who Jalen Milroe is. I've covered Jalen Milroe for 2+ years. Jalen Milroe is a competitor. He's going to finish what he started with this Alabama team. And they want to get that 10th win. So he is going to play. He did say that he doesn't know yet what he's going to do in terms of the draft. Hasn't made a decision there just yet. But that's the big news coming out of Alabama football. Practice yesterday as the Crimson Tide started practice for the bowl game. So we've got, as I said, some good audio for you there. Other news and notes, of course, coaching carousel is in full swing. As I talked about yesterday, usually there's, one opening leads to another opening because you have an opening and then that school hires a coach from another school and then you have another opening. That hasn't been the case with a couple of these jobs because North Carolina hired Bill Belichick, unemployed, and UNLV's hiring Dan Mullen, who worked for ESPN, so they did not come from other schools. Now, West Virginia is hiring Rich Rodriguez. So that means Jacksonville State, which has become a really good job, has an opening. And I'll tell you this, too, about JSU and Rich Rodriguez. Rich Rodriguez did a good job there, a really good job. And I have been told by some people that I trust that he liked it over there in Jacksonville. And it's a beautiful community, great school. I went to school there, so I know it well. He really liked that job and had done a terrific job, leading them to conference championship this year. It wasn't like he was just out there looking for another job. He's made a lot of money in his career. He had the job. Remember, he was head coach at Michigan, head coach at Arizona, of course, the head coach at West Virginia. So he's had jobs where he's made a lot of money. And he was making good money at Jacksonville State. I don't want to say that he wasn't, but not the kind of money that he's going to make going back to West Virginia. But he wasn't out there waving a flag saying, hire me. But when this job opened up, I don't blame West Virginia for looking at him. He's a good coach. He did a terrific job when he was at West Virginia. And so anyway, JSU is now open. Thursday night NFL football last night. We had an unusual circumstance, and it is the lead story on all the talking head shows this morning on ESPN and Fox Sports. Devondre Campbell, who is a good player, has been around, was a former second-round pick of the Falcons, out of Minnesota, I think it was. I remember him when he played with the Falcons. But he's also played with the Packers. I think Chase is pulling him up now. See if I'm right. Played with the Falcons. I think he's played with I know he had a great year with the Packers. Might have played with the Cardinals for a year. Okay, yeah. I'll tell you, I know my NFL. And he is now with the 49ers. Well, here's the deal. Dre Greenlaw has been hurt much of the year, and Devondre Campbell has been playing a ton for the 49ers. Greenlaw has come back, and Greenlaw's a really good player now. He and Fred Warner, two of the top linebackers in the league. Well, I guess last night, I didn't watch any of the game. It's on Prime. I don't have the subscription. I was at a TV station anyway. But I assume Greenlaw got hurt, and maybe another linebacker wasn't able to play. And Campbell, who, of course, was in uniform on the sideline, refused to go in the game in the third quarter. Not only refused to go in the game, he quit. He said, I don't want to play. In fact, Chase, do me a favor, not in this segment, we got to get the break, but find George Kittle's reaction. You can find it on social media. I think George Kittle probably summed it up really well about how that impacts your team. So obviously, I don't think he's going to be a San Francisco 49er much longer. I think they'll cut him if they haven't already. But very unusual deal. Rams won the game. Huge win for the Rams over the 49ers, 12-6. So there you go. So a lot happening this morning. We're off and running here on the Gary Harris Show. Get involved. Give us a call because, Chase and I are feeling great this morning. It's a pretty day outside. And again, it gets cold at night, but it's nice out there now. I got shorts on. I got a pullover. Yeah, but I'm wearing shorts. So I'm going to coach. I'm going to the Y as soon as I'm done here. Cha-ching. I got to get going again on the workouts, man. I mean, I've dropped the ball. I gotta pick it up, dude. I gotta pay the price, man. You gotta bring some to get some. You know what I'm talking about? I gotta get after it. All right, we're gonna take a time out here on the Gary Harris Show, and when we come back, phone lines are open 205-342-9904. We're guest free here in the first hour, and we'd love to hear from you. This is the Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM. WTBC, your home for Alabama sports.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa Thread.
Good Friday morning. The Salvation Army's Red Kettle Christmas fundraising campaign gets underway at 6 tonight at University Mall. Salvation Army Captain Michael Chisholm will launch the campaign by ringing that iconic bell. The holiday campaign primarily funds the Angel Tree Initiative, which provides gifts and clothing to those in need. The program aided more than 1,100 people last year. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage all throughout the day. It's free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Get a meat and 3 vegetables for just $8.49. Or for a lighter appetite, try the Lucky Lunch soup, salad, or sandwich combo. I'll see you at the Free.
Hey, life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Visit alabamacu.com to learn more. Some rules and restrictions apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions, both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's Management Dream Team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good...
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A good supply of sunshine today, the high 56. Tonight fair with the low at 41. Tomorrow increasingly cloudy, a chance of some rain tomorrow night, the high 59. Sunday a mix of sun and clouds, a small chance of a shower, the high 61. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 44 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to The Gary Harris Show.
Goal line in, touchdown, Alabama.
On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9. And streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Create dissension or disbelief or just disconnection on the sideline?
Not disbelief or disconnection like as a team. That is one person who just decided not to, play for his teammates. And I don't think that doesn't make our offense look at each other and be like, wow, man, we're falling apart. It's more of or like the defense, hey, we're falling apart. It's more of a one person making like Mooney said, a selfish decision. And I'm with Mooney on that. And I've never been around anybody that's ever done that. And I hope I'm never around anybody that does that again.
Wow. George Kittle, the outstanding tight end for the San Francisco 49ers, commenting on Devondre Campbell quitting on his team last night in the third quarter of the 49ers' loss to the rival Los Angeles Rams, 12-6. And Kittle's one of the leaders of that team. I thought he handled it well. Listen, we're still out there playing the game. I mean, it's not like, it impacted us in terms of the offense. We still got to go out and play, and even the defense, although they were shorthanded. But it's just the statement that it makes for a player to be that selfish and to walk out on his team. Like I said, it's very unusual. Does not happen very often, but it happened last night. Also, this note from the NFL, the Dolphins are playing much better now with Tua back. He's been lighting it up. He's got a lot of weapons. Odell Beckham Jr. will not be one of them. He going forward. He has been released by the Dolphins. He had missed some time with some personal issues, and it's being reported that it's a mutual decision. In other words, he wanted to be released. Dolphins agreed, and the Dolphins will go forward without OBJ, who's another example of what happens. These receivers, he was a great player, and he's probably still a guy that could help some teams. But once you go in the other direction, it's hard. I mean, it's just, it's like with Julio. I wanted Julio to be able to come back and play some more, but, that's a position where speed, everything is so vital that you lose just a little bit of it, and you're just not as effective anymore. And that's what's happened with OBJ too. All right, let's jump out on the phone lines, and our pal Ragged Glory, our music lover, is chiming in this morning. Hey, Ragged Glory, good morning.
Well, good morning to you, Gary. Wow, I just got blown out of the water because of my 49ers. Been with the 49ers since John Brody and Gene Washington back there. Man, I'm going way back. So I've been loyal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lived there, done that, and my AFC is the Chargers. I'm so grateful they're at least hanging in and holding on. what I'm really calling in for is I need to send you a blessing.
Okay.
And so and this part of my name, Ragged Glory. I hope you enjoy your weekend because you deserve it.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
That's pretty much it. I appreciate you and all of your knowledge, the hard work that you put in, staying on top of all this. And yeah, I know a little something about sports because I've been there, done that.
Well, I really appreciate it, Ragged Glory. That is so nice of you to say, and it is a blessing, and I appreciate it. And everybody likes to be told that they're good at what they do, so I appreciate it very much. You made my morning.
Enjoy your weekend, Gary. And yeah, I think I'm going to start stepping out. I'm going to talk to Martin, Houston, Xavier. I'm going to start putting my input in on all of the stuff that I have heard you guys talk about for 2 years now. Thanks to my sister, she turned me on to this radio station.
Well, I appreciate her turning you on to it. And yes, we need your input on as many shows as you are comfortable calling in on, because you're a great caller and you add a lot to the program for sure. But I'm also thinking back to when I was a kid, and even though I was, like I said, I don't know why as a small child I was so drawn to sports, but I remember those 49 teams you're talking about with Brody and Gene Washington and Dick Nolan as the coach wearing the tie, and they were good teams in the early 70s. Some good teams couldn't quite get over the hump. It seemed like the Cowboys got in their way a lot, but those were some.
That was my issue. I actually got to see them in Kezar Stadium in San Francisco.
Wow!
And, oh my gosh. You know, Dwayne Thomas was that running back at that time.
Yep.
But anyways, it is what it is. And, you know, I was grateful for the Bill Walsh era and Joe Montana.
Dynasty.
Oh, my gosh. Joe Montana is always and will be the GOAT. Don't care. Don't talk to me about Tom Brady. Don't talk to me about Bill Belichick. No. Joe Montana was awesome.
He sure was. And the 49ers, their dynasty was built in a time, not that the Patriots didn't have some competition too, they did, but people forget in the 80s in the NFC, it was a mega powerhouse conference. You had the Niners, you had the Giants, you had the Redskins with Joe Gibbs, you had the Bears, even though they only won the one world championship. Those 80s Bears defenses were they were monsters. And so you had to navigate through all those teams just to get to the Super Bowl. Of course, usually once the NFC team got to the Super Bowl, it was usually a cakewalk over the AFC in that period of time. But getting there was for the 49ers to have to go through the Giants, have to go through the Redskins, have to go through the Bears, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, and let's not forget George Allen, Redskins coach.
Oh. That's going back to the time in the early 70s too. Yeah, so good stuff.
Exactly, and let's give praise to Chuck Noll and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh yeah, now when you get in the 70s are kind of a reversal of the 80s. The 70s were dominated by the AFC teams. Of course, you had the Steelers winning the 4 Super Bowls. The Raiders won their only Super Bowl in the 70s. Of course, the Dolphins went back-to-back, and the Cowboys were really the only outlier there. You know, the Cowboys from the NFC.
Correct.
Because usually in the 70s, the AFC team, once we got to the Super Bowl, was the dominant team. But the Cowboys won a couple Super Bowls. But then in the 80s, it reversed, and it was obviously the NFC was dominant. And now it's, of course, the Chiefs but, every year, I guess with free agency and the way it works out now, you don't really feel like one conference is dominant over the other anymore. You know what I mean? It's
not. It's a wonderful thing because I remember the Baltimore Colts when they had to face Joe Namath and said, you know what, this is an upstart. The AFL at that time was nothing more than semi-pro. It was everybody that couldn't make the NFL. And I can't remember who said that, but yeah, and then here comes Joe Namath. And the irony is, I didn't realize Joe Namath came from Alabama.
You didn't know that?
Well, because at that time I was in California, and, I was a USC, Southern California Trojans fan. as far as college was concerned. But I was more into the NFL.
Yeah.
So,
well, funny
and
story.
it blew me away to find out the heritage. So,
well, the quick story on Joe Namath, how he wound up at Alabama, it wouldn't have happened. Obviously, Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. He didn't know much about Alabama other than I'm sure he knew who Bear Bryant was, but he had no intentions to come to Alabama. Of course, he was a baseball prospect as well. He was drafted out of high school, but he was going to go to the University of Maryland. And what happened was he did not qualify to get into Maryland, and the coach at Maryland wanted to make sure that he didn't play against him. If he didn't want him along the Atlantic seaboard, so he actually contacted Alabama and said, "Hey, Les, you need to take a look at this Namath kid." So Howard Schnellenberger, who was an assistant for Coach Bryant, went up to see him, and they immediately offered him a scholarship, and that's how he wound up coming down to Alabama. So it was, and then of course the rest is history. It's what he was able to do both in college and the NFL. And as you said, for people that are younger that don't know, they hear about Joe Namath and they hear about the Jets. At that time, you're absolutely right. The AFL was an afterthought. They were considered a like you said, a cast-off league. They were, I guess, a 16-point underdog. The Jets were. The Colts were the dominant team in professional football in the NFL, and the Jets were given no chance. And that was still the most important game in professional football history because that forced the merger. The Jets winning that Super Bowl then forced the merger, and the AFL and the NFL combined and became, the National Football League with an AFC and an NFC. And that's why a lot of people, when I hear people say, well, Joe Namath threw more interceptions and touchdowns and all that, shut up. If you don't think Joe Namath's a Hall of Famer, you don't know anything about professional football, period.
Okay, there it is there. There it is there.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right,
you know what? And he threw the football so hard that the Colts couldn't intercept it.
Well, he spun it unlike very few. He threw for 4,000 yards in a season when there were only 14 games. That's another thing, folks. It wasn't always 16, 17 games. At one time there were 12,
right.
And then they went to 14.
I remember 12 games.
Yeah, that's right. And he threw for 4,000 yards in a time when there wasn't people throwing for a good quarterback in the National Football League might throw for 1,800 yards or 1,600 yards and be a good quarterback. He threw for 4,000, and go back and watch the video of his release, I mean, it was just a flick of the wrist, and he could throw that ball 60 yards in the air and hit Don Maynard in stride or George Sauer or whoever it was. And another thing about him, his knees were already blown out, so he was basically throwing and playing quarterback in the National Football League on two surgically repaired knees that, gave him really hardly any mobility. So, yeah, was a great football player. It makes me mad, as you can tell, what Ragged Glory, when people put Joe Namath down, it really gets my ire up because they don't follow football very closely if they don't think Joe Namath was a great player. So, end of story there.
Amen. And again, bless your weekend, man. You have fun tonight. You understand?
Thank you, Ragged Glory. I will. Appreciate you, man. You have a great weekend, too. Thanks for calling in, and looking forward to you getting involved in some other shows, too. All right, it's 9:32 here on the Gary Harris Show, and you can call in just like Ragged Glory did. As I said, we're wide open this first time. It's kind of fun. I did it earlier in the week, too. I love my guests. Now, don't get me wrong. Love engaging with people and talking sports, but sometimes it's kind of liberating, Chase, just to have a whole show. And hey, listen, I got a lot of flaws, and I may not always make sense, but I can talk. So I definitely was. I was given the gift of gab. So I'm not bragging, but I could carry a whole 2-hour show by myself if I needed to. So anyway, but enough about that. But I don't want to carry it by myself, so let's get some phone calls in, 205-342-9904. But we will get to the break, and before we do, I do want to remind you that lunch is right around the corner, and as I said before, I'm involved with several restaurants. One of them is Brick and Spoon. And love Brick and Spoon, breakfast, brunch, and lunch. I was in there yesterday and got the French toast. Oh, my gosh, they got good French toast. Again, probably not great for the waistline, but French toast, 2 eggs scrambled, bacon, banana, sliced strawberries, and it was awesome. Awesome. Brick and Spoon, downtown at Timerson Square, open 7 days a week until 2 p.m. All right, we're going to be back with more of the program, and I see Tom is ready to weigh in, so we'll get to Tom's phone call on the other side of the break. This is the Gary Harris Show on Time 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and Fitting Specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time at the Tuscaloosa Championship Golf Course. Everyone can play. 205-562-3201. Old Colony is operated by Parrot.
Best sports talk in the state. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:37. Welcome back in, and the TGIF edition. So, and this is another good thing that Chase did. You know, I told you before. We love all the music that we do on the show. We love the weekend music, the TGIF music, but they were pulling us off the podcast because of copyright infringement. So, Chase found all our great weekend songs with just the instrumental version. So, and that's why I'm not singing anymore. I love to sing because, even if you say, if they hear these lyrics, they will target your podcast. You can do it on the radio because obviously we're licensed to do it, but can't do it on the podcast, which kind of ticks me off a little bit. But all right, we got Tom and Roland ready to go. Let's start off with Tom. Hey, Tom.
Gary, good morning. How are you?
Doing great. I'm in a really good mood. Can you tell?
Yeah, I think you are, and that like the previous caller, you've been rolling pretty hard, and since you got back from that little vacation, and I'm glad you're gonna get some time off. It's good, and it sounds like the freedom is hitting you just right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to today. I really am. So. I am, yeah.
Good.
I'm excited, and because not only is it today, but then it leads into the weekend too. See, so it's like
right. It's like a 3-day weekend.
Of course, tomorrow night got a big basketball game, Alabama and Creighton over at. Are you going?
Probably, yeah. I am. I got to get over there. My guys in my section, we got to gossip. There's a lot of things going on. We hadn't talked to each other except by text a little bit. And, excuse me. I got to get over there and gossip, find out what they know, and vice versa. You know how that goes.
I do.
And I wanted to continue the theme with Joe Namath.
Okay.
I wanted to point out things that were highlights for me, in addition to him playing at Alabama, which I was blessed to be able to get to see him play at Alabama and enjoyed his pro career as well. And but Joe was kind of the first of the NFL guys that was marketable all over the place, and being in New York, everybody in New York to this day loves Joe Namath.
Absolutely, he's an icon.
Everybody. And all the advertisers there on the Madison Avenue, they all wanted to get Joe and push a product with Joe's face in it, and then on TV, Johnny Carson loved Joe, and it was always a treat to see him on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. And I remember one time it was this voluptuous bombshell blonde on there, and she came out first, and then Joe came out after her, right?
Yep.
And they were talking to Joe and this, that, and the other, and she said, "Well, I don't know a whole lot about football." And Joe said, "Look, after we leave here, I'll be glad to teach you about."
Yeah, two of the best guests during those 70s for that type of behavior, flirting and all, was Namath and Burt Reynolds. Burt Reynolds was the same way.
Oh, yeah,
he went on the show. You're right. But no, I remember that, and I'm trying to think of her name because she was a well-known.
I can't. She was a Lonnie Anderson type.
Yeah,
that wasn't her.
She was. No, it wasn't Lonnie. But anyway, I do remember that episode. You're right. Joe was a big time flirt, and he dated.
Cool.
He dated some of the most attractive women of his day, for sure. He was.
And in the movies with some nice looking women.
Oh, absolutely. He was in movies with Ann Margaret. He was, in fact, kind of a cult classic, folks. If you've never checked this out, if you can find it, and see, Tom, I want to see if you've watched it. CC and Company. The biker movie from right around 1970 or 69 or 70, but with Joe Namath.
And Joe had the handlebar mustache.
Yeah, and Joe Namath and Ann Margaret and William Smith.
She was in those hot pants. You remember on the movie poster, she was standing up there, and motorcycle right behind him. She had those hot pants on. My God Almighty.
William Smith was the villain in that movie, and folks may remember him. He was a very good actor, very muscled up. He played the role of Falcon Eddie in Rich Man, Poor Man, the miniseries from the mid-'70s. William Smith. He was the nemesis for Joe Namath and CC and Company. But anyway, if you've never watched that movie, check it out. But Joe was in quite a few films.
I was going to tell you this too. You remember Joe Namath? The first time I ever saw Farrah Fawcett was with Joe in a Noxzema commercial.
Yeah.
Take it all off.
That's right.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
And then Joe with the pantyhose.
Yeah, got paid $1 million. Joe got paid $1 million to do the pantyhose commercial.
Sure did.
If they can make, I don't wear pantyhose. He did that commercial. She said, but imagine if they can make my legs look this good. Imagine what they can do for you. That's right.
I forgot that was the byline. I really did.
But I'm a huge Joe Namath fan, and I've been blessed to have interviewed him several times. I've never had him on my radio show, but I've done several TV interviews with him. In fact, I got to do, how about this? When Johnny Unitas passed, both Joe, and this is when the TV station was still over in Reese Pfeiffer Hall before we moved into the Digital Media Center inside the stadium. But Greta Van Susteren was, I guess, with Fox. And anyway, Joe Namath and Bart Starr came to Reese Pfeiffer Hall to do a satellite hookup to be on her show. Right there together. This is probably, when did Unitas pass? Early 2000s, I know that. So they were there together, and I had interviewed both of them separately, but I got to interview both of them about Johnny Unitas after they did their satellite hookup for Fox, and both were just awesome. And both, obviously Joe Namath, I had grown up idolizing Johnny Unitas because, the Pennsylvania connection.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, he beat him. And then, of course, Bart Starr competed against Unitas for all those years. So I thought that was a really cool moment. And I've actually got the pictures somewhere. I've got the pictures. I think they may be buried on my social media. But I've got my picture with Namath and Bart Starr that night. That was really cool.
Well, I wanted to say this, that one time I went, had been invited to go over and play golf at North River. And so got there, and it was early. We were the guests. 2 or 3 of us made a foursome. And we were early, but we were the guests, so we were kind of like hanging around in the pro shop, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so our tee time approached, and our guy was running late. So, but anyway, we eased outside to, see if we could get things going. And lo and behold, Joe Namath and Ray Perkins walked up. And Joe was as friendly. You would think we played football with him, the way he was carrying on. Ray never spoke.
Really?
Yeah, he never spoke. We went, "Hey, coach," like that, and he just it was like we didn't exist.
Wow. Well, a little bit of trivia there. Of course,
Ray wasn't the most personable guy there was in the world.
Well, he could be. Like I said, I was able to.
If he didn't know you,
yeah, but he could be funny. As I said, I shot his coach's show for 2 years in 1985 and 1986 when he was here at Alabama when I lived here the first time, and he could have his moments. But a little bit of trivia here. Of course, Ray Perkins played on the Colts team that. With Johnny Unitas that Joe Namath and the Jets beat in Super Bowl III. So, it's cool to go down.
Ray was a hell of he was a hell of a wide receiver.
Oh, absolutely. Was obviously a great player at Alabama. Was a good player in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
He was a good player. And then of course.
Do you remember how many years he played in the pros?
Yeah, I do. I want to say it wasn't an incredibly long career. I want to say maybe about 8. And it was good. I want to say about 8 years. In fact, I'll look it up. Let me see. I want to say he played. I want to say he played 8 years in the NFL. Let me pull it up, and I'll tell you for sure how close I was.
I thought it was 7.
No, it was even less. And then I knew better than that. I knew it wasn't 8. It was only 5 years.
Really?
Yeah, he played 5 years with the Colts and immediately went into coaching. I don't think that he could have still played longer in the NFL. But you got to remember, too, in those days, the money wasn't anything like it is now. And in fact, if you go back,
you had to go to work with
if you go back in the 50s and into the 60s, a lot of the NFL players had separate jobs in the offseason, whether it was selling cars,
That's exactly right.
or wrestling, or whatever it might be. So I think with Ray Perkins, he knew he wanted to coach, and so he just moved on into coaching earlier. But he was a good player in the NFL.
You know, Forrest Gregg, I've read a book by Jerry Kramer, and Forrest Gregg and him, offensive lineman for the Packers.
Yeah.
And Forrest Gregg was probably the highest paid offensive lineman in the NFL at the time. And both of them, they did work. They had jobs after they left the season when it was over.
Mm-hmm.
And but that was common among.
Oh, it was, yeah. Perkins for only 5 seasons. You got to remember, again, this was a different era. He was a good player. He caught 93 passes, 11 touchdowns for 1,538 yards. So he was a very productive receiver. Hey, I got to go. I got to hit the break and come back and give Roland a little time, Tom. Thanks, man.
Bye.
All right, bye. All right, it is 9:48, and we're going to take a time out and come back. Roland, you stay with us, and we'll get to you in the final segment. And we didn't even need any of our audio, but we'll still get to it maybe in the second hour, too. All right, we'll be right back after this.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Friday edition of The Game, we'll do our free-for-all, sponsored by Brian Harden Construction. Free-for-all Friday starts at 2 p.m. We'll take your phone calls. We'll talk to Brent Beard and several other guests. Starting at 2, right here on Tide, 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest-running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after-hours events, rehearsal dinners, receptions, and birthdays. They offer brunch and lunch catering. Call Brick and Spoon at 205-345-5551 for more information.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And, of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy hour specials. And for the best Mexican cuisine in West Alabama, remember, the name is Los Tarascos with locations in Tuscaloosa and Northport.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Friday first hour getaway song, The Cure's Friday I'm in Love. But we're not getting away yet. We're going to jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline and welcome in our pal Roland from over there at beautiful Lake Gunnersville. Good morning, Roland.
Hey, Gary. Good to talk to you. I ain't talked to you in
it's been
several
a while.
weeks.
You seen any bald eagles lately over there?
Yeah, sure have. Seen one right here close to my house here about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Man,
but yeah, we see them down at the lake a lot. They got a nest down there at one of the parks. They stay there all year, I reckon.
Yeah, and those things are so pretty. Yep, cool.
But they're really amazing. Gary, I hadn't really, like I say, talked to you in several weeks, and this playoff thing, it just bummed me out. I mean, I can't believe some of the media guys across this country are so stupid or so biased or whatever. I mean, I have all the respect, and I really like Josh Pate and all that. He was on the show the other day, and he said he thought the committee got it right. And, people's entitled to their own opinion, but let's be realistic about this thing. If you take it, every metric favors Alabama, every schedule you can bring up for or against whatever favors Alabama. Clemson lost to South Carolina and Georgia from the SEC. The ACC was 3-8 against the SEC in games this past year. And so every metric you can bring up favors Alabama. And, you hear, with the guidelines the committee had, they got it right. No, they didn't. I mean, the strength of schedule is one of the things they look at. And if you look at SMU, they didn't even play the top teams in the ACC this past year. And I know, they say a lot of times we look at things through crimson colored glasses. Yeah, I think Alabama deserved it, but even if Alabama didn't get in, I thought Carolina deserved it over SMU. And and for the SEC just get 3 teams and the Big Ten get 4, there's something wrong right there, because there's no doubt the SEC is the best conference in the country. I mean, I think Greg Sankey somewhere dropped the ball on this whole thing. He either got played or something, but for Alabama not to get in, it was just amazing that we got people in this country that's supposed to be football fans and know football schedule, football teams, strength of conferences, and all that. And an Alabama team that lost to Oklahoma was a bad loss, but is a loss. It don't count no more a loss than SMU losing to Clemson is a loss. It goes on the loss side of the ledger. So all that just amazes me, and I pretty much know what you think, but I just throwing that by you. What I just said.
Well, I think you make some great points, Roland. And as I've said for the record, if I had been on that committee and my vote or my choice would have been Alabama over SMU, for the reasons that you just laid out, it's about the complete body of work. And I understand that Alabama had, a couple of disappointing losses at Vanderbilt and at Oklahoma, and but at the same time, it's a 12-team playoff. It's not a 14 playoff. It's not a 2-team BCS. 9-3 in the old format you would not even sniffed it. But it's a 12-team playoff, and that opened the door for Alabama. And I think Alabama was going to be in if SMU had won that game, or if Clemson had gone ahead and won it handily. It was a worst-case scenario for Alabama. I think the committee got caught up in the emotion of it. And, it's not like I'm going to rant like some of these people were ranting before the playoff selection show last week when they thought, or a couple of weeks ago, when they thought Alabama was going to get in. You had media people just going, like you said, beside themselves. So they can't put it, and I'm not going to do that. Alabama didn't get in. You move on. I understand that they had a couple of disappointing losses, but both things can be true. You can have a couple of disappointing losses and still deserve to be in. And I'm with you. I think if the Big Ten gets 4 teams, the SEC should have gotten 4 teams. And everybody says, well, Alabama could have played their way in if they'd beaten Oklahoma. Well, SMU could have played their way in if they'd beaten Clemson. They lost too.
Exactly.
But it didn't happen. And what I want to focus my energy on now, and I hope that's what the football team focuses its energy on, is having a good few weeks of preparation and going down to Tampa and whipping Michigan in that ReliaQuest Bowl, getting to 10 wins, and giving the program a boost of momentum heading into the offseason. So that's all you can control now. But no, I'm with you, Roland. I thought Alabama deserved that final spot, but they didn't get it, and nothing we can do about it now.
Real quick, you was talking about Joe. I'm 71-year-old, so I remember Joe play, and I remember listening to the game on my transistor radio.
Sure.
The day he got hurt against North Carolina State.
Oh yeah.
But I've never seen a more courageous performance than I seen at Orangeville that night when Joe come hobbling in against Texas and brought us back and all that. The Jets drafted. I don't know if I'm sure you know this. The Jets drafted Notre Dame's quarterback John Hewlett, who won the Heisman Trophy. Who won the Heisman Trophy? I paid him $200,000, paid Joe $400,000, and here it got cut before the season started.
And
it just kind
They knew what they had.
It just kind of shows you. It kind of shows you the politics went in even back in with football. Because I thought Joe was the best passer. One of the best passers I ever seen. He had the prettiest release and the quickest release I think I've ever seen on any quarterback. So. And I think if he hadn't got hurt with his knees, I think he went down as one of the greatest of all time.
There's no doubt about it. You said he against NC State is when it started, and he pointed out that was the only game where he didn't spat his shoes. In other words, he didn't tape his shoes up, and he hurt his knee, and he was never the same from an athletic standpoint. But good. A little tidbit information too. It was just a perfect storm with Sonny Werble and Jets Hunter being a Hollywood guy. But the Cardinals, who drafted him in the NFL, had they made as good an offer as the Jets, or a better offer, he probably would have signed with them, and everything would have been different. But it was a perfect storm for Joe in New York City, no doubt.
It really was. Well, Gary, I'm going to let you go. It's good talking to you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Roland. Always a pleasure to hear from you. And over there at beautiful Lake Guntersville, man. What a beautiful place to live.
Thank you, man. See you later.
It's 9:58. That's going to wrap it up for hour number 1. And we'll be back with hour number 2. This hour has been brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. And we got Christy Curry kicking off the second hour right here on The Gary Harris Show.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Monsi Bolaños.
The LA Rams needed 4 field goals to defeat the 49ers on the road, 12-6. Matthew Stafford completed 16 of 27 passes for 160 yards. Brock Purdy completed 14 of 31 passes for 142 yards, but he had one crucial interception in the end zone in the fourth quarter. Since their bye week, LA is 7-2. After the game, 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan shared that linebacker Devondre Campbell told the team he didn't want to play and left in the third quarter. Two-way star Travis Hunter, who was named the AP College Football Player of the Year, also won the Defensive Player of the Year and Most Outstanding Receiver. Boise State star Ashton Jeanty won the Maxwell Award as college football's top player and the Doak Walker Award for being the top running back in the country. Indiana's Curt Cignetti was named Coach of the Year. And in the NBA, the Celtics outscored the Pistons 123-99. The Kings edged the Pelicans 111-109, and the Heat had a 114-104 win over the Raptors.
Like the Alabama 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A good supply of sunshine today, the high 56. Tonight fair with the low at 41. Tomorrow increasingly cloudy, a chance of some rain tomorrow night, the high 59. Sunday a mix of sun and clouds, a small chance of a shower, the high 61. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 48 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show. I'm Gary Harris, Chase Brumfeld alongside, and we're going to kick off this second hour by jumping out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline and welcoming in the head coach of the Alabama women's basketball team, Christy Curry. The Tide's off to a 9-1 start with a game this Sunday afternoon at Coleman Coliseum against Murray State at 2 o'clock. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
Great. Good to have you. Excited about this team and what they've been doing. Got off to a 9-0 start and really it just had not had a close game. I mean, it had been you'd been taking care of business in an impressive fashion against some good teams. But then the ACC-SEC Challenge, and again, we don't think of traditionally having to go to California to play an ACC team, but that's the world we live in now. So you fly across country against a good Cal team, an experienced team at their place, and you lose a tough one, 69-65. Could have won the game, had opportunities, but did not. In addition to the caliber of competition, what was different in that game, and what can you learn from your first loss of the season?
Yeah, I mean, it was different. We didn't have Diana Collins, who's averaging 23 minutes a game, was out with a concussion. That was a big blow to us. And then, we didn't shoot it well. I mean, we missed 9 free throws, and Aaliyah and Essay were 3 for 17. So, when you can make shots, it cures a lot, Gary. I think you'll see that here as we move along. So it was a great experience. I mean, they're really good, and so credit Cal. That was a good experience for us. We'll bounce back. You know, we have 3 top 50 net games here right before Christmas. So Murray State, and then we leave to go down and play Michigan State and Richmond, who are both really good. So it's quite the test for us right here before Christmas. And, you know, we're just excited for Sunday. Sunday's going to be awesome. You know, we're expecting a great crowd. It's free, Christmas sweaters for the first 500. You know, along with some really fun promotions. So we hope Santa Claus is going to be there. So it'll be a great family environment for Sunday at 2:00.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good time for a game on Sunday afternoon. And like you said, with all the Christmas promotions, it's going to be a lot of fun. Because of the situation with Cal, you weren't at full strength, and even some people that played in the game weren't well. Where are you at now health-wise after this break? You haven't played since December 5th before you play Murray State. Is everybody back on track?
Yeah, we're back on track, which is important. You know, I think it's important too to know. You know, you don't want to make excuses, but we just were not ourselves, and I couldn't find a way to try to help us and do a little better job from my end to find a way to get that one. But we are back and healthy. We've had a great week of finals, and you know, we've really worked on a lot of little things that we can improve at. So it's a time of year where you either get better or worse. There's no staying the same. You got to continue to improve with each and every day. I just love the mentality of this team. You know, we've got some older kids who understand. We've got some younger kids who have great examples in front of them. And so excited for today. You know, we had a Monday off and Thursday off, preparation for finals, 2 really good practices on Tuesday, Wednesday. Now we're ready to get into our Friday, Saturday routine. Should be a fun weekend in Tuscaloosa with the men on Saturday and us on Sunday. And I know our players are looking forward to, you know, being able to take a deep breath after a strenuous week with finals.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. This is a different time in college basketball, all college sports. But I want to ask you about the construction of your roster, because you've done, I think, a great job of continuing to recruit top high school players, but supplementing through the portal, and not just, it appears, looking for talent, but looking for fit. And because when a player comes in from another school, and sometimes, well, you know, if you're fortunate, you get more than 1 year, but a lot of times they're coming in for a short term. It appears to me that it isn't just about what they bring in terms of their basketball ability, but can they fit into your program? You've been here a long time now. You know how you want to do things. Can they fit into your culture? Can they fit into you know, being a teammate? And it seems like, again, just 10 games in, but this roster, in addition to be very talented, just looks like they're all on the same page. It looks like they've played together for a long, long time, even though there are some new pieces.
You know, we spend a lot of time in the process recruiting, making sure that the character and that they're fit from an academic and a cultural standpoint. I think it's a day and time where when you still look at women's basketball, there are 13 WNBA teams and there are 30 NBA teams. So the value of a college education and the likelihood of playing professionally is going to be there. You know, we've got 3 players on the draft board right now, which is amazing, and a credit to our kids and their work ethic. But it's still not. It can't all be transactional, right? It's got to be relationships, and I think we're going to continue to operate that way in our program and continue to try to find people that are a fit first. And we've had tremendous leaders, you know, from the Hanna-Barbers, set the tone. Now you've got a Sarah Ashley Barca, Leah Nye, you've got a Jayana Cunningham, you've got a Carly Weathers, amazing people who really set the tone every day with their work ethic. And then, you know, association brings on assimilation. We see that in all of our world every day. And so we've got a great group of freshmen who are learning and growing and realize who they have in front of them and, you know, be ready when their number's called as well. So we're trying, you know, we just signed a top 15 class, 4 freshmen, but yet we'll blend that in the spring here with a couple of players that bring experience. On the women's side, there's a big difference between an 18-year-old and a 23-year-old for a lot of reasons. And I think we've done a really good job of making great decisions in the process, but our kids have done a good job, too, of coming in here and just going to work, man. We've got a hard-nosed, gritty group of kids. We talk a lot about grit, love, and gratitude. You want to see a bunch of kids get after it now, they're going to get after it. So they're a lot of fun to coach because they're so gritty. Yeah. You know, they embrace a blue-collar, hard-nosed, we're going to wake up every day and be the best we can. And it's been fun to coach this group.
You know, Carly Weathers, Sarah Ashley Barker, Aaliyah and I, others that have been part of the program. But this is what I'm talking about with kind of plug and play. You went out and got Zay Green through the portal. Now, listen, ton of experience. We know that in the SEC.
Right.
And then last year at UAPB was phenomenal. I know you knew she was good, and I know you knew she would help this team. But, wow. I mean, she's great. I mean, just speak to what you were able to do with bringing her in, knowing that she's just going to be I guess a one-year player. I don't know anymore with how eligibility works. Sometimes players play a lot longer than what it appears they should be able to. But just talk to what she's brought, speak to what she's brought to this team, not just in terms of her experience and her athletic ability, but again, another player that just, it looks like she's been with her teammates for 5 years.
You know, she's unbelievable. It's been amazing to watch her selflessness and how she really wants to make everybody around her better. And, you know, she's played for a long time at a really high level, and she's an impact. She gives us a presence, Gary, that at the rim and on downhill drives, and does a really good job of finding open shooters. She's really improved her outside shot, and we're just really, blessed that she chose Alabama. We recruited her hard out of high school and coached her mom in 1993. So it's kind of come full circle. It's a really special story. And man, she can do a lot of things. It's her size, on the perimeter. It's a bigger team for us on the perimeter. We've got 6'1", 6 foot, 5'10", 5'11". And so when you have big guards that can make plays at the rim and find open shooters, it's a big deal. So excited for what's ahead for her in the SEC.
And, of course, we mentioned Nye and Barker, and in Barker's case, another player that you recruited heavily out of high school that didn't sign with Alabama but has come in, and to have her back with all her experience and leadership, and Nye too. Are those cornerstone-type players for everybody else on the roster? Do they look to those two as kind of this is how we do it at Alabama in regards to not just the basketball, but like we're talking about all the culture stuff too?
Oh, absolutely. Aaliyah is working on her MBA, and so the rigorous schedule she has every day, but yet she's one of your hardest workers. And then Sarah Ashley's working on her master's. Man, those two set the tone. It makes my job a lot easier when you have vocal leaders, you have action leaders. I mean, they're just relentless competitively, too, in all areas. Mm-hmm. So it's a big deal for us, and those two have done an unbelievable job of coming in and being team first, playing for the front of their chest, yet being willing to do whatever it takes to set the tone every day. You got to always, as coaches, your hardest workers have to be your best leaders. Your leaders have to be your hardest workers, and those two have really done that. And Carly Weathers the same. Carly's in clinicals right now in nursing school. Her story's unbelievable. So, not only what these kids are doing and how our program's headed from a basketball standpoint, which I know is what we're judged on, it's crazy what they're doing in the classroom. Yeah. You got one working on their MBA, getting their master's with Sarah Ashley, and then Carly's in nursing school. It's different, and they're different. I think it translates, to 94 feet and why we're successful.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, there's so much emphasis now on NIL and the portal, but they are still student athletes, and you're keeping that part of it in the game for them. All right, let's get to in just a couple more minutes, and I'll let you go, but let's get to where you're at. We know where you were when you got here. I mean, anybody that follows Alabama women's basketball knows the program was mired in mediocrity. That's just the reality of where it was. You knew it was going to be a process, and you've made so much progress, and you've now become an NCAA tournament team. But when I look at this team and you see the potential, is this a team? And again, a lot of basketball to play. I understand that. But this doesn't look just like a team that, to me, well, the goal is just to get in the NCAA tournament, to be a tournament team. But to get in the tournament and go, to make a run here. You've been around teams that have been to the Final Four, so you know what it looks like. Is this, you've coached those teams, is this a Final Four potential caliber team at Alabama?
Well, we're just excited. I think that this team has so much versatility and so many different people that can do so many different things. And, that's how a team should be built, to play late into March. I think it's going to be important we stay healthy. We're excited. The possibility of, the regional is in Birmingham. So it's a fun time to have this team, because the possibility to be able to play in the state of Alabama and the regional would be really fun for us. So, yeah, I mean, this team was built I think it's been interesting, Rachel Douglas and Jessica Timmons both being hurt and redshirt, and the pieces, Naomi Jones, waiting to see how she comes along. So I think health and, if we can continue to grow and develop and improve, but you're in such a good league, here comes Texas and Oklahoma. The margin for error come January is so small. It's a free throw here or there. It's a box out here or there. It's a game of mistakes. And so we're going to have to continue to improve and grow. And I think these next 3 games before Christmas and the one after, our goal is to be 4-0 the rest of the month in December and continue to improve. And I think the teams that can stay together, fight through the adversity of whatever the adversity might be, are the ones that will be successful come March. And this team is built for that. And we're excited to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I guess that's a great thing about the league is that once you get into SEC play, if you can compete on a night in and night out basis with these teams, there's no reason to fear anybody. I guess you're going to be tournament tested. I mean, there's some other great leagues out there, man. I mean, there's some great women's basketball. I think is at a zenith right now as far as competitiveness and the number of quality teams. But speak to the SEC and how it prepares you if you can get through the grind and make it into the NCAA tournament. How prepared you are for anybody that you might face having played in this conference.
Well, it's just such a big, physical, strong transition, put-back league, easy baskets, teams that can be the aggressor, physical. It's different. And, when they say that it just means more, it means more in the preparation and what it prepares you. I don't think people understand that night in and night out. Having been in a couple different leagues, not to criticize, but it's different, because there's no day off. There's no time where you can take a deep breath because, again, the window for error shrinks incredibly with little things that make a big difference. So we're just a team right now that's trying to improve those little things. And I'm excited to be home. We'll be home January 2nd versus Florida. We need to defend our home court. We get the opportunity to play Florida twice. Our schedule has changed with Oklahoma and Texas, still at 16 conference games. We only play one opponent twice. I think it's interesting not playing Auburn twice. We'll miss that because I think that's so good for women's basketball in our state, but we are fortunate to have Auburn at home. So got some great home matchups. We just need this community. This team's ranked in the top 25. Yeah. We've worked so hard. We need people to get out and come support us. Yeah. These kids have earned that right, and the way they're representing, we just need some great crowds in Coleman here as we finish December and head into January. We would really appreciate everybody stepping up to a different level with that. Yeah,
there's no doubt about it. I mean, everybody always says, give us a winner and we'll support a winner.
Absolutely.
Well, you got a winner. I mean, there's, like you said, there's no reason now you're going to see a basketball team that has the potential to compete for, top, ranking in the SEC. So I'm with you. It's time to go watch this team. All right. You mentioned obviously the game Sunday against Murray State is the priority right now, but you did refer to the West Palm Beach Classic, and you'll be back in time for Christmas. But what a nice Christmas present to go down to South Florida for a couple of ball games before Christmas for these ladies. Against, like you said, Michigan State's a top 20 team. Richmond's a good team, so it's great competition, but also a good little early Christmas present for the ladies too.
It is, but, their focus is to go win. There's so many different events this time of year, around Thanksgiving and around this time of year that we can go and play. And I just hope it's a little warmer, man. It's been colder in Tuscaloosa earlier, it seems like. So I know we're just looking forward to it. It's an 8-team event. Tennessee and several others will be on the opposite side. So it's going to be a great event for women's basketball in the West Palm area. And we're looking forward to being able to fly our players home from there. For a few days home with their families, and then we'll get back here the 26th and get back to work after it.
Yeah, I love the way the schedule lays out. Again, folks, if you're listening, Sunday at 2 o'clock, I agree with Coach. It's a great time to go to Coleman Coliseum. People are out and about, festive. There's going to be all types of holiday promotions, Santa. Great Sunday afternoon, 2 o'clock game, so you're still out in time to go to dinner and have family events on Sunday night. Pack that place on Sunday afternoon to see Alabama versus Murray State. Coach, thank you so much.
Gary, thank you, and Merry Christmas to you, your staff, and Roll Tide. We just appreciate you guys.
All right, Merry Christmas to you. Coach Christy Curry with us talking Bama women's basketball. Boy, what a good team. This is the best team Alabama has had since they've had some good teams under Christy Curry, but I think this is the best team potentially that Alabama's had since the Rick Moody days as far as being able to have an opportunity to get into the NCAA tournament and make a run. This is a really good team, folks. So we want to get the word out. Sunday, 2:00 against Murray State. Man, you need to be all about getting over there to watch the Tide. All right, it's 10:20, 20 minutes after 10, and phone lines are open in the next segment on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. 205-342-9904 is the number, and I'm going to come back and discuss more about Bill Belichick. Will it work? Will it work? And will he be there long term? There seems to be some reporters have gotten out there, and there seems to be a buyout in his contract that would make it easy for him to leave very quickly. We'll discuss that next on the Gary Harris Show.
100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A good supply of sunshine today, the high 56. Tonight fair with the low at 41. Tomorrow increasingly cloudy, a chance of some rain tomorrow night, the high 59. Sunday a mix of sun and clouds, a small chance of a shower, the high 61. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 50 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Catch every game and every moment right here. This is your home of Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 10:24. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. And all right, Bill Belichick. Remember the Rodney Dangerfield movie from 1986, Back to School? Rodney Dangerfield, who was a very successful businessman, decided to go back to school and join his son, who was a freshman. It's a great movie, great comedy movie. But, Rodney Dangerfield was probably, in his 50s or whatever, 60s, what have you. But Bill Belichick is 72. And he's going to the University of North Carolina as the head coach, despite having spent his entire professional coaching career in the National Football League. But here's an interesting tidbit. Let's just be honest. If he could have gotten a job last year in the NFL, he'd be coaching the NFL. That's what he wanted to do. It looked like the Falcons might hire him. Arthur Blank decided not to after a lot of advice from his front office. And Bill Belichick sat out the 2024 season, doing a little TV work, visiting around, watching games going to the University of Washington where his son's a defensive coordinator. Anyway, he takes the North Carolina job, but he's going to go back to the NFL if he gets an opportunity, in my opinion. And the contract is even written as such. I don't know if you realize this, Chase and listeners, but he has a $10 million buyout in his contract before June 1st of 2025. So in other words, if you were to hire him, for whatever reason, an NFL team has an opening and in January and they hire Bill Belichick, they would owe North Carolina $10 million. But as of June 1st, 2025, that drops to $1 million, only $1 million, which is nothing for an NFL team. Now, he's probably not going to get hired after June the 1st because there's not going to be any openings unless there's something weird happens. A coach resigns for health reasons or whatever. But most of the, by June, NFL teams have their coaches for 2025. So, you figure he's going to be at North Carolina in 2025 regardless. But after that, with only a $1 million buyout, let's say next year he goes 8-4, 9-3, 10-2, gets in the playoff, whatever. Let's say he has a really good season. And an NFL team says, wow, he's still got gas in the tank. He's in the conversation for greatest NFL head coach ever. We're a bad team, a bad organization. Let's hire Bill Belichick. Well, it's only going to cost you $1 million. That's nothing for an NFL owner, but it's going to pay millions of dollars for the contract. So let's say there's an NFL team this time next year who has already fired their coach, the same way that teams have done this year, and they say, let's go get Bill Belichick. I think he would go. I think he'd go back to the NFL. I think that's really where he prefers to coach, and I think that that contract being put together that way is proof of that. So we'll see, but this is as I've said the last couple of days, this is one of the more unusual coaching hires that we've ever seen. And if you're just tuning in, Rich Rodriguez will be introduced this afternoon as the new head coach of the West Virginia Mountaineers. Dan Mullen appears headed to UNLV. So a lot of high-profile coaches. You know, and in Mullen's case, another guy who is a very good television analyst. I think he's excellent on TV. And I think he's an underrated coach. I thought the job he did at Mississippi State was remarkable. And when you look at his record at Florida, 3 New Year's 6 bowl games, 1 SEC championship game appearance, really good record. I'm shocked that he hasn't gotten an offer from a major school. Now, UNLV, Barry Odom did a nice job there for a couple years. That's why he got the job at Purdue. But for Mullen to take that job, people are saying, why? Well, coach is coach. That's what they do. When you see them on TV and they appear to be having fun, they still want to coach. Coaches want to coach. That's just what coaches do. And if they get an opportunity more times than not, they're going to do it. So, Mullen to UNLV, Belichick to North Carolina, and Rich Rod from Jacksonville State to West Virginia. All right, we'll come back and talk some Auburn Tiger sports with Brett Pritchard from the Auburn Blitz next, right here on the Gary Harris Show.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
It's time to talk Auburn Tigers, and when I do that, I go to one of the best when it comes to Auburn sports. Auburn Blitz is the show with Brett Pritchard and others, but Brett's been coming on with us for several years. Also, of course, Alabama High School Athletic Association Radio Network, and ready to go, Brett. Good morning.
What's up, Gary? How are you, buddy?
Doing well. Let's start with football because I want to get the latest on Auburn's pursuit of a portal quarterback. And I understand they just signed Deuce Knight, great prospect out of the high school ranks, but you would think he won't be ready to go for a while. It's clear to me and that Auburn's going to get a portal quarterback and needs to, if not two. What's the latest?
Absolutely. Got to get at least one, Gary. Sorry about the noise in the background. I'm trying to move in a quieter place. Got to get one out of the portal, and Auburn's definitely got several on their radar. They've had Malik Murphy in for a visit, Jackson Arnold now coming in for a visit, and it just feels like Jackson Arnold is the guy that the momentum has shifted to, and we talked about it on our podcast this morning, Gary. It's one of those situations where his numbers weren't great, and they've had some turmoil in Oklahoma the last couple of years and changing offense coordinators, Jeff Levy going over to Mississippi State. This guy was as highly touted as anybody, and if Auburn were to sign him, when you look at star rankings and what he came out of high school, it would be the highest rated quarterback Auburn has ever signed during the the star era,
right,
where you really started to keep up with prospects. So, look, I think he's got a ton of potential. I don't, you never know till you get a guy in place, but, a lot of people probably wondered why Oregon came and got Bo Nix. Bo Nix didn't have the best performance at Auburn. Maybe his freshman year was his best year and kind of went downhill, even got benched, if you'll remember. He goes to Oregon and he flourishes. So, sometimes that's the best for people. They get a new environment, new perspective, and maybe that will be the case if Jackson Arnold and Auburn decide to pair up.
You make a great point. We're seeing the NFL, with these guys that first of all, there's so much pressure on these young quarterbacks when they're drafted high, but you see all these high picks, number 1 overall picks, number 3 overall picks, and they're giving up on, and then they're popping up somewhere else because the talent's there. They wouldn't be drafted that high if they weren't. Same thing with these high school quarterbacks. The talent's there. They wouldn't have been a 5-star without it. So I'm with you 100%. Just because it doesn't work out at one place doesn't mean that it's not going to work out another place. And again, I think Auburn, Hugh Freeze understands what's at stake. And you still want to recruit high school quarterbacks, no doubt about it. But you got to have, you and I have been discussing this for a while. It's year to year, these rosters. And we do know this, whether it's through the portal or through your own high school recruiting, you better have a quarterback in this league or in college football at all if you're going to have a chance to get in a college football playoff. The days of, and I love those days. I think we loved it when teams ran 55 snaps and quarterbacks handed it off and were asked to throw maybe 15 times and they were tough. But those days are over. You got to have a playmaker at quarterback, and if you don't have one, you're just not going to get to where you want to go, right?
Yeah, you're dead in the water. Let's just be honest about it. The quarterback position is the most important position in all of sports. And if you don't have good quarterback, I really feel like, again, I don't want this to sound like I'm just hammering Peyton Thorne, but you put a guy like Cam Ward in place this year.
Oh, wow.
And take him away from Miami.
Different team.
Auburn had a better defense than Miami. So I'm using that as a comparison that, Auburn was in every football game this year. This is not like they got dusted in 2 or 3 games. I mean, they had a chance, and in 3 of them just gave it away. So if you get better, more efficient quarterback play or have a guy that's dynamic back there, man, you change the whole landscape of this season. I mean, you're probably looking at Auburn with a 9-3 record along with Alabama and maybe some of these other teams that would have had an argument to try to make it into the playoff rather than being a 5-7 team. That's how important a good quarterback can be to you having a good season or even a great season versus a mediocre to terrible season.
Overall, because I got to see Auburn in person, of course, at the Iron Bowl, and there's some holes. I mean, you could see, but you also, and I know you cover them every week, you can see the young talent too. Obviously, when we talked about the wide receiver position, but some of those guys on defense, man, up front and at linebacker. And again, we know you're never as far away in the SEC as it might appear simply because all these teams have good athletes. So you're looking to supplement, you're looking to get experience. As you said, in this case, you're looking to get a quarterback. With where we're at now, I don't think it's out of line to think that Auburn could jump from being a team this year that had a losing record and didn't go to a bowl to being in the chase for a college playoff spot next year. I mean, I just think that's what can happen in this league. For that to be the case, to go from 5-7 to maybe 9 or 10 wins and a chance to get in the playoff, what needs to happen for Auburn in addition to the quarterback?
I think we've just been talking about it for 5 minutes. I think it's that important that Auburn get a quarterback that can make plays and that can make great decisions and not cost you when the game's on the line. And I know that's a lot in one statement, but that's what a good quarterback does, all of those things I just said. Because I think Auburn's offensive line is good enough. You had Braden Joyner that really stepped it up, made the all-freshman team this year. You have Connor Lew and Dylan Wade and Jeremiah Wright that are going to come back. So you're going to have 4 linemen back. Mm-hmm. Then you got all these receivers that are coming back. And then if you're able to go out in the portal, and I'm not saying we're going to add Singleton, but you had somebody like Eric Singleton from Georgia Tech or even another piece. I mean, I love our defense, Gary, and I've said that ad nauseum. I mean, Auburn's got a top 15 defense, and I was very impressed at the development of young players on that side of the ball as every week went along during the season. I mean, you watched Auburn after the first 3 games, you would have thought Auburn's secondary was going to be horrific. And it ended up being one of the better secondaries we've had in years. And it was with a bunch of freshmen and a bunch of guys that had not played really much coming into the season, and they got better every week to the point where, Auburn had a couple of the best secondary players in the country back there. Gary, and I thought linebacker play. DeMarcus Riddick really came on as the year went along, and he had some guys in front of him that he was able to learn from, and Eugene Asante and Dorian Mausi and those guys, he really learned from those guys and got better. Then you saw Keldrick Faulk make a massive jump from last year to this year on the defensive line, and a guy like Malik Blockton. So, and you add the guys that are coming in on this defense recruiting class with Anquan Fagans and Eric Winters in the secondary, and you add Jared Smith up on the front line with Jordan Crawford and Malik Autry. I mean, this defense has a chance to get even better. So I think it really boils down to one thing: offensive game planning around a quarterback that can make plays. And if Auburn can fix that issue, I think Auburn absolutely can be in the talk with anybody next year. But that's such a big if.
Mm-hmm.
You have to correct that problem if you want to be in that discussion.
All right, I'm going to get to Auburn basketball in a moment, but I want to get your take on what's happening with the coaching carousel. Obviously, we're going to start with Belichick, and I just got through reading in the last segment. Unbelievably, his buyout drops from $10 million to $1 million June 1st of next year, 2025. Now, you would think that all the NFL teams by June aren't going to be looking to hire a coach, so you figure he's going to coach at North Carolina at least next season. But after that, $1 million is nothing. And you and I both know, or anybody that follows football knows, that he would be coaching the NFL right now if he could have got a job last year. It looked like Arthur Blank was going to hire him. He got gun shy because his staff, his front office was scared Belichick would come in there and clean him out, which he probably would have. So they talked him out of it, and he went with Raheem Morris. I mean, I like it. I think it's cool. I think North Carolina, this is something that why not try it? I mean, but at the same time, if he gets an NFL offer after 2025, I think that's where his heart. I think that's where he's going to go back. What do you think about the hire? Do you think he's going to be there long term? Do you think it'll work? Do you think they'll have a good year next year? What do you see with Belichick in North Carolina?
I'm not buying it. I'm just not. I've said it. I think it just seems out of place. Gary, he seems out of place. I'm a firm believer, and you looked at Tom Brady and Bill Belichick while they were playing with together in New England. It was like, which one made who? Well, when Tom Brady left and went to Tampa, he won another Super Bowl. Bill Belichick couldn't even get to the playoffs, and that franchise went down the tubes quickly. And I'm not saying Bill Belichick's not a good coach, but his personality and the way he kind of approaches things. I don't know that is going to translate into college. Now, I know he came out and said they're going to run it like a NFL program and try to build it to where it's a factory to, where prospects are going to want to come to play at North Carolina and all. That's fine. Saying that's one thing, but there's a lot of guys that know how to do this recruiting really well, and he seems like a guy that would get very irritated. I'll just be honest with you, with the whole process. So I don't think it's going to work. I'll leave the words if it does. And I'm with you. I don't think it's a long-term relationship either way. I think his heart and his mind is in the NFL. And I think this is just something temporary to kind of fill a void.
Rich Rod, I guess, proving you can go home again. And of course, first of all, I'm going to give Rich Rodriguez credit. He did an awesome job at Jacksonville State, Brett. I mean, he did a killer job. And all of a sudden, that JSU job's a good-looking job. But I don't know if people remember when he left West Virginia, it was ugly. Because the year before he left, he got the Alabama offer. Looked like he was coming. He didn't. They stepped up to keep him, Joe Manchin and others. And then a year after that, he bolts for Michigan, and there was a lawsuit involved. And it was an ugly divorce. But, West Virginia, it didn't work with Neil Brown. This guy's a proven coach. That's his school. What do you think of the move to bring Rich Rod back to Morgantown?
Well, I just think it shows you that how far out these Power 4 teams feel confident in hiring, and they feel like, even though a guy was there and left, they're willing to grab him back and start over. And again, like you said, I think you got to give credit where credit's due. He went to Jacksonville State and he kind of took a step back. No offense to Jacksonville State, but for him, took a step back from the jobs he had and really did well there. And you look at West Virginia, and they've got a built-in relationship. It's really not a gamble. They already know what they're getting. So I think it was an easy trigger to pull for them, and I think he'll do well up there. I think, the guy's proven he can coach, and that's his comfort zone. So I think he'll do well at West Virginia.
As far as JSU, is it too simplistic just to think go hire Bill Clark? I mean, he played there. He's a graduate.
You know, spent a season there as an assistant coach, highly successful at UAB. He's going to coach again. I guess the only negative that he might be waiting maybe for a bigger job, so to speak. But if you're JSU, it seems like a no-brainer to me that you try to go get Bill Clark.
Yeah, look, we all knew Bill Clark would rise from the ashes again. You know, I know he had some medical issues with his back and got out, but I think there was probably even a little bit more than that to him getting out now that he's rejuvenated. It looks like a great fit for him. Now, will it happen? I don't know, but you got to get back in the fray at some point. In Jacksonville State's a place you can go and win, and multiple coaches have proved that. And I think Bill Clark can also win at Jacksonville State. And that would only bolster him and his stock for a higher job, a Power 4 job, if he were to go there and do really well. So if I were Jacksonville State, that's what I'd be doing. I mean, I'm with you. I think that's a no-brainer direction to go in. I would make him tell me no for sure.
Dan Mullen in ULV, so interesting to me.
Weird.
Weird. Yeah, it is. It's just, and
Weird.
I think Dan Mullen is an underrated head coach. I mean, I still think the job he did at Mississippi State was incredible. To have them number one, and you know, had it not been for Alabama and Nick Saban, he probably gets to a college football playoff and gets to Atlanta for an SEC championship game. And then at Florida, I mean, he won games. Now, they were all concerned about how he was recruiting, but he went to 3 New Year's Day 6 bowl games. He went to an SEC championship game. I'm just shocked that he hasn't gotten a bite or nibble from a bigger school, but it's a strange deal with going to UNLV. What do you make of it?
I don't know. You know, to me, it's where do you fit in? Do you think of Dan Mullen and UNLV? I don't. But, you know, if you want to get back in coaching, I think you take what you can get. And, you know, UNLV's shown that they can win, and they can get behind a program. Fans can get behind a program. Look, fans of any school will get behind a winner. And so Dan Mullen can coach. Gary, I think you said it. You don't have to like the guy to give him credit that he can coach. And he did. What he pulled off at Mississippi State, I don't think we'll ever see that again. I think it will take a very special circumstance to ever get Mississippi State back to a situation where they're knocking on the door of number one in the country. But we'll see how it works out. I don't see him fitting in that region. I think he's a Southeastern Conference, Southeastern region part of the country guy. I think that's what he knows and where his relationships are built. And you're up and then moving all your stuff out west to a whole different mindset and a different area. So we'll see how it works out. It will be interesting to follow.
All right, let's get to Auburn basketball in our last couple of minutes. You mentioned football trying to kind of build the roster. Auburn basketball, the roster's built. I mean, this is a Final Four caliber roster, and so far the results have been there too. Interesting game tomorrow. In Atlanta, Ohio State, to me, on paper, Auburn should win this game fairly comfortably, but it is still a big name opponent in an area where Auburn, of course, recruits a ton. So a big game tomorrow for the Tigers.
Yeah, no doubt. They're 6-3, I think, on the season. I think you look at it from a standpoint of on paper. Yeah, I think it's a pretty comfortable win for Auburn, but you're playing in the neutral side, and it's about how you get off to what kind of starts you get off to. A lot of times, I think it's another good opportunity for Auburn to go out and showcase against a Power 4 opponent that they have a team that's capable of making a deep run in March. So it's been a brutal out of conference preseason schedule for Auburn that they've navigated pretty doggone well, except for the trip to Duke, and they were in that game and had every opportunity to win that game. And Auburn had a bunch of fans travel up there to the point where Duke administration sent out an email to season ticket holders that they didn't ever want to have that happen again. That it was that their chants and cheers were getting drowned out by Auburn people. So,
wow.
There's a lot of excitement around this team, and I think you want to continue to build on the excitement. And you go to Atlanta to this particular venue and get a win, and then you turn your eyes to Purdue on the 21st in Birmingham. So a couple really big games still left before SEC play gets started for Auburn.
All right, man. Great stuff as always. And, of course, you keep all the Auburn people informed on the Auburn Blitz.
Absolutely, yeah. We're going to be on location today at Bunkers Bar in Auburn. So if anybody's in the Auburn area, we'd love to see you. That show will start at noon. We'll actually have head men's golf coach Nick Kleinert on with us. So look forward to talking to him and kind of how the season is shaping up for them.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it.
All right, 10:50, and we got one final break to get in, and we're going to come back and wrap it up, get you ready for T-Town Sports Daily. Real quickly, though, let me mention to you that if you're looking for a round of golf this weekend, temperatures aren't going to be too bad, and there's a chance for some showers, but I don't know if it's, chance for showers. I think tomorrow actually is going to be pretty good, and this afternoon's pretty good. So get on over to Tall Pines, beautiful golf course there in East Tuscaloosa, a hidden gem, and they're open for tee times, 205-556-1232, 205-556-1232. Fall golf, and I guess in this case, late fall, but still, it's beautiful. I played out there last Sunday, and the visuals are just, you'll relax and you'll enjoy it. Tall Pines Golf Course. Call to make a tee time, 205-556-1232. All right, we'll be back. One final segment to go. We can squeeze in a phone call if you want to give us a ring, 205-342-9904. We'll be right back.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Friday edition of The Game, we'll do our free-for-all, sponsored by Brian Harden Construction. Free-for-all Friday starts at 2 p.m. We'll take your phone calls. We'll talk to Brent Beard and several other guests. Starting at 2, right here on Tide, 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest-running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
As the holiday, serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. It paid for me to be the first person in my family to go to school. That education got me to the first day at my dream job, which I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and the home loan benefits I got from the Army National Guard helped me buy my first house. I also know that I will be one of the first to respond if my community ever needs me.
Sponsored by the Alabama Army National Guard. Aired by the Alabama Broadcasters Association and this station.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A good supply of sunshine today, the high 56. Tonight fair with the low at 41. Tomorrow increasingly cloudy, a chance of some rain tomorrow night, the high 59. Sunday a mix of sun and clouds, a small chance of a shower, the high 61. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 53 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The flagship station for Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Couple of quick app messages. One I missed a couple of days ago from Barner, Hader, and Dothan. Any word on when we'll get an announcement from Jalen Milroe about coming back, going out for the draft, bowl game, portal, etc.? Well, we know he's going to play in the bowl game. We don't know yet what he's going to do as far as the draft is concerned. Also this morning, Chase, our pal Q06 out of Indianapolis chimed in. Chase is one of my guys. Does a fantastic job. Pay him before he hits the portal. Wide over there listening?
I'm not going anywhere. Don't you worry.
Right.
Don't worry.
Thanks, Q06.
I love where I'm at.
All right, Steve's going to close us out this morning on the show. Good morning, Steve, here in Tuscaloosa.
Hey, Gary, how are you, bud?
Doing well.
Great show today. There's no shortage of content.
Nope.
This time of year, is it?
Not at all.
No. You're Bama in the NFL. I have intended to call earlier in the week about this, but there's just one guy that I am thrilled to see finally have settled into a good, successful career, and who I think at some point in time should have been a candidate for MVP here in Tuscaloosa, J.K. Scott.
Yeah, he's one of the top putters in the league for the Chargers, having a great year, and even got to complete a pass earlier. Although they didn't make it on fourth down, he threw a nice pass. Yeah, I'm with you. He was a tremendous punter here. Great young man, and has had a solid pro career with the Packers and now with the Chargers. I'm with you. You know, he's one of the best.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that guy. Like I said, he was his freshman year here was probably the best he ever had, and through his career here at Alabama. But he was just, flipping the field. He was a weapon. He, gets overlooked even more than offensive linemen do in terms of what they accomplished. But I just thought he was great.
He was, and he is, and I'm with you. And I tell you, I love Bama in the NFL. It makes it so much fun for me on Sundays to track these teams and put out all the information on my social media, and just a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right, Gary, I'll let you go, bud, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, Steve. Good to hear from you. And that's a great way to close it out. J.K. Scott, one of the best punters in the National Football League for the Los Angeles Chargers. And I hope I didn't say San Diego Chargers. I still do that from time to time, but Los Angeles Chargers. All right, that's going to do it for the show. And we had a good one today. Thanks, Chase, for all your great work. We got through a week, and like I said, I'm off the rest of the day. Woohoo! Going to work out at the Y. So swing on by if you remember at the Y. We'll hang out. All right, we got T-Town Sports Daily coming up with Wyatt Fulton. I think Wyatt's been working out a little bit lately. Looks like he dropped a few pounds. Is that my imagination, Wyatt? Yeah, you have. Yeah. Good for you. All right, he's coming up next here with Chase from 11 until noon. Have a great day, everybody. And listen, we'll talk to you again on Monday. We'll recap the weekend on the Gary Harris Show.
Thank you for listening to the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.